Molly Qerim's unexpected exit shocked her audience, igniting non-stop speculation across the internet. Now, explosive new footage involving her and Stephen A. Smith has surfaced, exposing tense on-air confrontations that shift the entire narrative.
Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last 10 years. And a lot of times, some of these things happen.
Stephen appears to be making an effort to fix the situation, but the strain between them is unmistakable, leaving fans desperate for answers. What truly unfolded when the cameras weren't rolling? This clip may finally uncover it all. The abrupt walkout and the truth buried behind ESPN's doors. The sports broadcasting community spiraled into chaos on September 15th, 2025, when Molly Qerim, longtime face of ESPN's flagship debate program First Take, suddenly announced her resignation. It wasn't just a normal departure. It was a media earthquake that shook the entire industry, sending fans, co-workers, and insiders racing to figure out what could have triggered such a swift and mysterious end to one of the most publicized positions in sports journalism. After nearly 10 years hosting First Take and almost 2 decades with ESPN overall, Qerim made the shocking decision to step away completely, effective immediately. The timing was jarring, the manner abrupt, and the mystery surrounding it overwhelming. There was no farewell segment, no slow handoff, no stage goodbye like the network usually grants its big personalities. Instead, the world saw a sudden, surgical split that left everyone guessing what really transpired behind those tightly locked studio doors. The very next morning after Qerim's resignation, Stephen A. Smith, her co-anchor and perhaps the loudest voice in modern sports media, addressed the topic on a SiriusXM show. He finally spoke about the situation everyone was whispering about, but no one could confirm. His remarks would go on to dominate headlines, commentary, and social threads for weeks. The emotion in Smith's tone was raw, unfiltered, and hard to ignore as he reflected on his now former colleague. This wasn't the loud, confrontational Stephen A. Smith the audience had grown used to. This was someone noticeably shaken, introspective, and far more subdued than the fiery personality viewers expected. Yet as his monologue went on, his words took on a vague, puzzling edge, one that would light the fuse for countless rumors and theories that refuse to die down.
A lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business. But
that single statement left the public with more confusion than clarity, opening a void quickly filled by gossip and conjecture from every corner of sports journalism and social media. What did Stephen A. Smith mean when he hinted the details were uncomfortable to see? What truths was he choosing to withhold? What inside knowledge did he possess but decide not to share? And perhaps most intriguingly, why was he guarding information that could have easily clarified one of the biggest mysteries in modern sports media? Smith did share a few tangible insights regarding what ultimately pushed Qerim to leave, though even those so-called answers seemed to spark as many new questions as they resolved.
It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her, but in the end, she made a decision to walk away from the show effective immediately, as you see from her Instagram post.
Contract negotiations in television are famously intricate, often messy, emotional, and full of egos. These talks usually extend far beyond salary figures, involving debates over creative authority, schedule control, additional duties, and overall career direction. The revelation that ESPN reportedly wanted to keep Qerim, but that she still chose to walk away, hinted at a deeper fracture, something serious enough to push her to abandon one of the most coveted roles in all of sports broadcasting. Qerim herself confirmed her departure via an Instagram post, where she thanked ESPN, her fans, and her colleagues for the journey, but offered no direct reasoning for the decision. She called the move difficult but necessary, suggesting vaguely that new doors were opening while expressing gratitude for the time she had spent shaping the network's coverage. The statement came across as poised, elegant, and purposefully ambiguous, the sort of polished farewell that says very little while sounding sincere. As the days went by, pieces of the real story began leaking through industry whispers and insider leaks. According to ESPN's president of content, Burke Magnus, the decision was mutual, a clean break. As he diplomatically put it, stemming from unresolved differences in contract talks that would allow Qerim to explore new ventures outside the network. It was an official line that sounded neat, professional, and scripted, but it failed to convince anyone paying attention. Viewers and insiders alike suspected that the true story was buried much deeper. Former ESPN analyst Marcellus Wiley soon poured gasoline on that suspicion with what became one of the most detailed and incendiary takes on what might have actually unfolded. Speaking on his Hydration Situation podcast, Wiley painted a picture of behind-the-scenes turmoil, clashing personalities, power dynamics, and unspoken conflicts that stretched far beyond a few disputed salary numbers. According to Wiley's version of events, Qerim had been seeking a significant salary bump, moving from her reported $500,000 to $800,000 range toward a figure that matched her prominence as host of one of ESPN's crown jewel programs. She was also said to have requested greater visibility within the company, perhaps her own segment or an entirely new show that could showcase her voice beyond moderating First Take. But that's where Wiley's account took a more dramatic turn. He claimed that Stephen A. Smith's influence at ESPN was so immense that when he endorsed someone, doors opened, and when he didn't, they closed. The insinuation was damning. If Smith had chosen to back Qerim during her negotiations, her demands would likely have been met without resistance. But according to Wiley, Smith didn't step in to support his longtime co-host of 10 years when it mattered most, a silence that allegedly deepened her frustration and may have been the final straw that pushed her out for good. Wiley even pointed to Qerim's complete omission of Smith's name in her farewell post as glaring proof of the rift that had grown between them. What he described as ugly and politically charged business dealings happening behind closed doors struck a nerve across the industry. As he bluntly put it, they weren't cool with each other, to the point that someone you've shared 10 years with doesn't even get a mention when you're gone. That line hit hard. It resonated deeply with those following the drama, because it seemed almost impossible to imagine anyone spending a full decade beside a colleague, only to erase him entirely from a goodbye note, unless there was serious bitterness or deep resentment involved. Wiley further emphasized what he saw as glaring pay discrepancies within ESPN's structure, pointing out that personalities such as Mina Kimes reportedly earned more than Qerim, despite having smaller on-air roles and less central visibility in the network's biggest shows. That revelation sparked uncomfortable debates about whether ESPN's pay scale was based purely on performance metrics or whether other internal factors, politics, favoritism, or bias, were shaping those financial decisions. Things escalated again when new insider reports emerged, alleging that Qerim's working relationship with Stephen A. Smith had taken a steep downer in the months before she quit. One particularly damning claim alleged that a senior executive aligned with Smith never saw Qerim as a good fit for ESPN's brand, implying that she may have been undermined from more than one direction within the company. If true, it suggested she was fighting an uphill battle against entrenched power, one she could win no matter how strong her on-air presence or ratings were. Former ESPN commentator Emmanuel Aiko, during an episode of the Speak Easy podcast alongside hosts Kieran Hickey Simple and Leon McCoy, added his own sharp critique of how Stephen A. Smith handled the fallout. The trio accused Smith of worsening the entire ordeal by revealing selective fragments of truth about the contract breakdown, while pretending ignorance about the rest. A tactic, they said, only heightened confusion. They argued that Smith's commentary came across as inconsistent and theatrical, stirring even more online frenzy rather than letting Qerim tell her own story as she stepped into her next chapter. But Stephen A. Smith wasn't finished speaking. Soon after, he launched into a lengthy on-air reflection, a seemingly general talk about the realities of the sports media world that everyone knew was, at least in part, aimed at his former co-host. This segment quickly became one of the most dissected and replayed monologues of his career. His tone carried the weight of a lesson. In this business, success isn't built solely on talent, but also on hustle, patience, and an exact understanding of one's market worth. Yet Smith wasn't simply reflecting. He was sharpening his message. As his commentary deepened, he pivoted again and again toward the idea of leverage. Who has it, who doesn't, and why it matters. Throughout the entire discussion, Smith repeatedly insisted that his words were not about Molly, a claim that convinced no one. In fact, the denial only confirmed for most listeners that he was talking precisely about her and her fallout with ESPN. Observers described his tone as cutting and revealing, a glimpse into how Smith really viewed Qerim's contract demands and decision to leave. The underlying message was clear. While Qerim may have believed she deserved a higher salary or more authority, she simply lacked the leverage, whether in ratings, revenue, or viable outside offers, to force ESPN's hand. To truly grasp the magnitude and surprise surrounding Molly Qerim's sudden exit from First Take, one must first appreciate the extraordinary on-air chemistry and professional rhythm she shared with Stephen A. Smith throughout their decade-long collaboration, a partnership that became the heartbeat of the show. Their complex history and undeniable connection were what made First Take appointment viewing. Qerim officially joined as the show's permanent moderator in September 2015, stepping into a high-pressure role that demanded she balance fiery debates between dominant personalities while still adding her own perspective, analysis, and authority to the conversation. Smith, who had already been the show's leading voice since 2012, was by then one of the most famous and polarizing figures in all of sports television. When Qerim arrived, the chemistry between them was instant and natural, forming the foundation of the show's success. From the very beginning, their exchanges radiated ease, wit, and authenticity, a rare sense of spontaneity that felt genuine rather than scripted. Smith often praised Qerim publicly, describing her as both a trusted friend and respected colleague. He credited her with being instrumental in elevating First Take to new levels of cultural impact and mainstream popularity. The connection between Smith and Qerim was obvious to anyone who tuned in. Quick, fiery, and full of playful tension that made every segment feel alive. One particularly unforgettable moment that captured their signature chemistry unfolded when Qerim openly challenged Smith's dismissive remarks about her athletic skills, sparking what quickly turned into a viral sensation across social platforms. What began as lighthearted teasing escalated into a hilariously competitive showdown, with Qerim, clearly stung by Smith's doubts about her athleticism and toughness, throwing down a direct challenge to prove him wrong. The result was television gold, spontaneous, bold, and revealing of just how comfortable and familiar the two had become after years of working side by side. Another classic exchange from their time together came during one of their trademark basketball debates, where Qerim showed she was more than capable of standing her ground against one of the sharpest minds in sports commentary. During a lively discussion about the Boston Celtics and their championship potential, Qerim admitted that she had been texting Smith during games, confidently predicting plays, and gleefully mocking him whenever her predictions turned out right. "I'm just looking right here," Smith laughed on air. "Because Kendrick Perkins and Jay Williams, I'm just trying to find this text from Molly. Okay, just a few days ago, going off on me. This is during the game she was sending stuff. The Celtics are winning this, and you know it. Party is over. This is what she said. This is what she said. Night of June 8th. He then read Qerim's messages out loud, exposing how confident, even cocky, she had become in her basketball calls, and how willing she was to roast her high-profile co-host when she knew she had him beat. Qerim's reaction to Smith, revealing her private texts on air, was. Her reaction on national television was, in classic Molly Qerim fashion, quick-witted and disarming. Though she stood firmly by her take on Stephen A. Smith's basketball commentary, her humor and self-awareness kept the moment light. These kind of exchanges, playful sparring, sarcastic jabs, and bursts of genuine competition weren't rare occurrences, but rather the essence of what made First Take must-watch television. Smith often compared their working relationship to that of siblings, full of teasing, disagreements, and occasional exasperation, but grounded in mutual respect and genuine appreciation for one another's craft. Yet, even as their partnership appeared solid to viewers and their chemistry on air seemed effortless, subtle cracks were forming over time. In hindsight, certain on-screen moments once dismissed as friendly teasing have been reinterpreted as flashes of real tension or discomfort, particularly in light of Qerim's sudden resignation and the mystery surrounding it. One incident that has since drawn renewed attention occurred in June 2025, just a few months before Qerim's exit, when she abruptly cut off Smith mid-segment as he began referencing what appeared to be private exchanges. At the time, the moment seemed routine, a professional host steering the show back on track. But in retrospect, some analysts believe Qerim's quick interjection reflected her growing unease with Smith's habit of blurring the line between their personal rapport and on-air performance. Former ESPN analyst Marcellus Wiley, speaking on his podcast, later argued that the closeness of their working bond might have been overstated in recent years. He specifically pointed to Qerim's notable omission of Smith's name in her farewell post as compelling evidence of hidden strain that had quietly built up behind the cameras. The question of whether Smith and Qerim shared more than just professional chemistry has long fueled speculation. Since Qerim first joined First Take in 2015, gossip outlets and online forums have whispered about the nature of their connection. Those rumors intensified following Qerim's 2021 divorce from former NBA player Jalen Rose, with online commentators and tabloids alike wondering if her dynamic with Smith had crossed into personal territory. The gossip caught fire again in late 2021 when former NBA player Kwame Brown, who had an ongoing and heated feud with Stephen A. Smith, publicly accused him of having an affair with Qerim during her marriage to Rose. Brown's explosive claim, made in a viral online rant, alleged that Smith's relationship with Qerim had turned romantic and that the rumors were well known within NBA circles. Both Smith and Qerim have repeatedly and emphatically denied any romantic involvement, maintaining that their relationship was entirely professional. In April 2024, the two even addressed the speculation directly on First Take after guest Chris Mad Dog Russo joked about their matching outfits looking like wedding attire. Smith seized a moment to call the gossip nothing but lies that had followed them for years, expressing clear frustration over the relentless rumors surrounding his partnership with his co-host. Jalen Rose himself has addressed the swirling affair rumors multiple times, most notably in a 2022 GQ interview where he called the speculation laughable and revealed that he, Qerim, and Stephen A. Smith had all privately laughed about the accusations together. In that same interview, Rose clarified that his divorce from Qerim had nothing to do with infidelity or any inappropriate relationship, but was instead the result of the difficulties of juggling two demanding careers in sports media. Still, despite those denials, the chatter refused to die down. After Qerim's sudden resignation in September 2025, social media theorists reignited the gossip, claiming that a failed romantic relationship might explain both her abrupt exit and the apparent cooling of her on-screen dynamic with Smith. Some even suggested that if a personal relationship between the two had soured, continuing to work side by side would have been nearly impossible. Adding even more chaos to an already tangled situation, a woman named Nikita Pearson emerged in January 2025, publicly claiming to be Stephen A., Smith's girlfriend, and accusing Molly Qerim of spreading false sexual assault rumors about him. Pearson's allegations came via a YouTube video, one that has never been verified or supported by any credible evidence, in which she also claimed Qerim had been pursuing Smith romantically. Neither Smith nor Qerim ever responded to the accusations, leaving them squarely in the realm of unsubstantiated online gossip. Despite the endless rumor mill, there remains zero proof of any romantic involvement, past or present, between Stephen A. Smith and Molly Qerim. What is undeniable, though, is that their professional partnership was one of the most electric and influential in sports television, propelling First Take into a league of its own over the last decade. On a personal note, both Smith and Qerim have maintained considerable privacy about their love lives. Over the years, only scattered details have surfaced through interviews and press appearances. Smith, born in 1967, has confirmed in several interviews that he is a father of two daughters and has never been married, though he has long been guarded about his family life. Qerim, born in 1984, was married to former NBA player Jalen Rose from 2018 until their divorce in 2021. She has also been candid about her own health challenges, notably her struggle with severe endometriosis, which she bravely discussed on First Take in 2024. By doing so, she used her platform to raise awareness about a chronic condition that impacts millions of women worldwide, but remains largely underdiagnosed and often ignored. As for the aftermath and what lies ahead, the story of Molly Qerim's next chapter is still unfolding. As of October 1st, 2025, she made her first public appearance since leaving ESPN, signaling she has no plans to fade quietly from the spotlight. She hosted a Q&A session alongside UConn men's basketball head coach Dan Hurley at the University of Connecticut Student Union Theater in Storrs, Connecticut. The event promoted Hurley's new book, Never Stop: Life, Leadership, and What It Takes to Be Great, co-written with renowned sports journalist Ian O'Connor. Meanwhile, unconfirmed industry chatter suggests that Qerim may be finalizing a major new deal with Fox Sports, one that would see her covering NFL and college football, as well as marquee NCAA basketball matchups, possibly even taking on hosting duties across several of Fox's sports platforms. This potential Fox Sports opportunity could represent a major evolution in Molly Qerim's career, expanding her role far beyond the debate center format that made her a household name. It would allow her to display new dimensions of her broadcasting range and connect with audiences who may not have been regular first-take viewers during her ESPN years. Some insider reports have painted ESPN's contract negotiations with Qerim as mishandled or even disrespectful, hinting that the network's approach to her renewal talks may have heavily influenced her choice to step away from what many still view as one of the most prestigious and visible hosting jobs in all of sports television. The blunt nature of that interpretation, coupled with Stephen A. Smith's repeated insistence that his commentary was not directed at Molly, only convinced more people that he was, in fact, alluding to her situation and offering his side of what went wrong in those contentious contract discussions. Many concluded that Smith's comments effectively confirmed why Qerim ended up without the leverage she needed to secure her preferred terms with ESPN management. The abruptness of her departure, paired with a carefully worded farewell that notably excluded any mention of Stephen A. Smith by name, left observers convinced that far more had transpired behind the scenes than was being publicly acknowledged. Former co-workers and insiders alike have cited those omissions and the suddenness of her exit as evidence that deeper rifts existed, extending beyond standard business negotiations. Theories about what drove Qerim's decision vary widely. Some believe she wanted Smith to use his influence to fight harder for her during the talks, while others think she may have grown resentful of the enormous contract extension Smith himself secured from ESPN around the same time. For many viewers, the situation raised questions about fairness, equity, and gender dynamics in the industry. Some wonder whether Qerim felt that the pay gap between her and Smith reflected an underlying undervaluation of her decade-long contributions to First Take, despite being one of its defining voices since 2015. The intrigue deepened when Qerim revealed that someone inside ESPN had leaked news of her resignation before she was ready to announce it. That premature disclosure, made without her consent, reportedly infuriated her, compounding what was already a tense and messy exit. It hinted at a breakdown in trust not just between her and Smith, but also between Qerim and key figures in ESPN's management team. On social platforms, the speculation has been relentless. Discussions on Reddit, particularly within the r/NBA subreddit, exploded with theories. One thread about Qerim's departure amassed over 2,000 upvotes and 673 comments, with users debating whether her exit was driven by behind-the-scenes romantic drama, workplace politics, or simple contract frustration. Among the top comments was one that summarized the sentiment of many fans. She worked beside Stephen A. Smith for all these years. She deserved better. It reflected a growing public perception that Qerim may have faced underappreciation or burnout while sharing the stage with one of sports media's most dominant and demanding personalities. Over on X, formerly Twitter, reactions range from heartfelt sadness over the end of the Smith-Qerim era to renewed speculation about what really unfolded inside ESPN studios. One user even pointed out the suspicious timing of Smith's on-air comment about having a girlfriend. Shortly after Qerim's resignation, Stephen A. Smith's casual on-air mention of having a girlfriend caught attention online, with fans joking that the timing felt suspiciously deliberate, as if it were connected to the long-running rumors about their alleged relationship. Others on social media said they wished they could have been a fly on the wall during whatever private discussions or confrontations took place between Smith and Qerim, underscoring the intense public curiosity surrounding the behind-the-scenes dynamics of one of sports television's most iconic duos. Looking ahead, how the situation ultimately resolves could carry lasting consequences, not only for Molly Qerim and Stephen A. Smith, but for the entire sports media industry and its approach to contract negotiations. If Qerim successfully lands a lucrative position with Fox Sports or another major outlet, it would vindicate her bold choice to walk away from ESPN and might even inspire other on-air talents to stand their ground when they feel undervalued by their employers. Conversely, if Qerim struggles to secure a role that matches or surpasses her previous visibility and influence, many might view it as validation of Smith's earlier remarks about leverage and the risks of overestimating one's market value. Either way, her next move will be watched closely, a real-world test case for how far one can go by betting on their worth in the cutthroat world of sports broadcasting. The ending of the Smith-Qerim partnership, not with a tribute or farewell celebration, but with rumors, ambiguity, and perceived resentment, feels like a somber coda to what should have been remembered as one of sports television's most enduring collaborations. Whatever the truth may be, whether it stems from contract strife, professional friction, personal fallout, or a mix of all three, it's a stark reminder that even the most successful partnerships can unravel when egos, money, and emotions collide under the bright lights of live television. What's your take on Molly Qerim's departure? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to click the cards on screen for more stories like this.